guided piece tonight. We're going to try to record. So please feel free to sneeze and or cough. That way it's most authentic. Or snore, as the case may be. It's yes, sir. That horn was telling me it's time. So it's 7 o'clock on a Monday night, and we're here together. So I invite you to just, before you go into your official meditation posture, just maybe take a minute and roll your body this way or that. Make sure your shoulders are unhunched forward. Roll your neck and head if you like. And come to rest in any posture that is suitable for you. Aiming for a posture that is allowing the skeletal system to do the heavy lifting. Allowing your hands and feet to be however they want to be. I wanted to offer you a possible way for contemplation in this short gathering sit. The Buddha was known to say that his path of practice is beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end. It's very easy for us and very common, even among experienced meditators, to get into kind of a goal-oriented frame regarding our practice, that we practice in order to get something or to get less of something else. But I want to invite you to enter into this practice as an expression of your beauty, of your great nobility, understanding yourself to be utterly unique in all of space and time, utterly precious. I invite you to bring your most kind and bright attention to whatever happens to be arising right now, and letting go of any kind of idea of how your practice should be or how you should be feeling. As your body begins to come to rest, rather than your practice becoming a patterning that is like a narrower and narrower band of what is acceptable experience. What if it were the opposite? What if in this place, in this moment, there are no wrong answers? body, heart, and mind exactly as they are presenting themselves to be known and loved by you. Just like this. With nowhere else to go. With nothing else to do. And no one else to be. The sound of my voice is just a sound like any other sound in the room. Feel free to play in your own practice. But if you like, I offer you some simple contemplations or avenues. I invite you to notice contact. Beginning perhaps on the surface of the skin. Different articles of clothing, different textures. Perhaps jewelry or watches or glasses. Noticing places upon your skin that are warm or cool by contrast. Noticing skin touching skin, fingers and hands, toes. The gentle sensations of the insides of our mouth, lips, teeth, and tongue. Our closed eyelids touching. this way we can see that sensation arises from contact. I hear that siren. May the person or persons for whom that siren is meant be happy and safe. May the people operating that siren be guided by kindness and wisdom. Excuse me. An object enters the field of our senses, contacts a sense, and then sensation arises. And this happens millions of times per moment. None of them are a distraction or a problem or something to fix or ignore. And each one is a gateway into now, into the present moment. Sounds that fall into our open ears, second by second. Light and shadow upon our closed or half-open eyelids. Smells entering our noses, tastes in our mouths. Feelings that arise within our hearts. Thoughts within the field of mind, arising and passing away. I invite you to refrain from judging the content of these 6 sensory fields, being touch and hearing, sight, smell, taste, and the heart-mind. But just notice that they are arising and passing away. Like ripples on an ocean, clouds in the sky, leaves shimmering in wind. And all the while the breath is flowing in and flowing out. With no need to manage or control. I invite you to either stay where you are or slowly shift your body, especially if something fell asleep or wants to move. All right, well, maybe now would be an okay time to open the floor, and we'll do another meditation period in a bit. So the floor, Zoom folks, and everybody in the room, the floor is yours. Oh, what's up? Yes?
Okay, it's been a minute since we talked. And
Hi!
Every conversation I have with you is just fun, so quality. So, I recently had this conversation with somebody, and I'm curious what, like, this practice might say about something like this. So, you know, like, the Greeks thought a lot about forms, and one of them being beauty. And, you know, in the world that we live in, it's something that's, like, generally discussed, and there's, like, the old saying of, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And we were going on about how, like, you know, beauty exists without our eyes, you know.
Huh.
Like, it doesn't need to have, like, a measure. Like, if you see it, right? It's like, and then things, it's just beautiful, whether it's, like, somebody passing away, and they smell really good, like death smells and stuff, or a brand new baby, you know.
Yeah.
But I am curious about in sitting with everything, and you know, and like recognizing sound and not being bothered or anything. Is that like something that beauty is too? Like something so, like we all understand what that is, right? But like when it being like so measured, like what would you? Or what would your take be about something like that? Or in practice of like recognizing beauty, is it more of a, I guess I'm like not asking.
It's a conversation that deserves a beverage or two, of either caffeinated or not. But the first thing I want to say is that the Platonic forms, so any kind of Buddhism has a unique kind of phenomenology and epistemology that basically says, and I, send all corrections to Franz at idon'tcare.com. But basically, if I understand the foundational phenomenology of the Buddhism, it's that the Platonic forms are not a thing. Beauty is not a thing that exists in some esoteric high realm. It doesn't posit a dual realm that this is, these divine emanations effectively, or any material thing that mirrors a divine form. And actually, anything that you would ever look at or perceive with your senses is colored by your senses, and there can't ever be anything else. It's just it's what do you call it? It's frames all the way down. It's ways of looking all the way down. So on a practical level, the question is always, is this way of looking helpful? It's always on a kind of what's that word that I'm blanking on? Pragmatic basis. Is this frame helpful or not? And at the same time, the Buddha saw that when mind and heart are not fabricating, are not manufacturing the world, then this subject-object duality immediately falls away. Because I look at the world through my eyes and I'm like, well, I don't see my eyes, so my eyes are the transcendental observer. I'm the experiencer of the world, and this world is the experienced. And there I've relegated it to a second-class reality, and I'm the real reality, because I'm the experiencer. So the foundational kind of Buddhist orientation is any kind of subject-object or self-other duality is false. It's a cognitive error. And it's easy to have, like, we all heard that, right? So that thing is an object in your senses, like we were talking about. But that sound is made of the same stuff as you and me and that thing that you ate 5 weeks ago. This is all one beautiful, infinitely elegant causally linked process arising. So when we, in any way that we can, fabricate less and decide that this is good and that's bad and why, because it serves me or not, etc., 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 then the kind of that hard wall that keeps us alienated from the universe itself, which is you, falls away, and then the beauty, the bliss that's already there in this, in this, in this, is more, we get out of our own way and we can be more participatory, we can experience it more directly. That, I would say, is the kind of, this old guy's kind of take on it.
Yeah, it feels more untangled.
Yeah. Yeah, just I'm always fabricating. Everything goes through the lens of, can I eat it? Do I want it? Do I not like it? And that's the clinging aversion and confusion that the Buddha used to talk about. And people say, what is nibbana like? What is it like to be free? And the Buddha said, simply that I do not, and he would always just ask the question back, do you know when there's clinging? Do you know when there's aversion? Do you know when there's confusion in you? Well, yes. Do you know when they're absent? It's like that. So,
less of a fist.
Yeah, less that, and oh my God, the whole universe is in my hand now, like that. That's great. God, you really bring the heat.
I miss you.
I miss you too. You're just gonna bring the heat like that? Cheers.
There was a question waiting for you, I suppose. I don't know.
Silly me, I'm like, a question about meditation. All of a sudden we're doing Buddhist epistemology. It's great. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Walter's question. So Walter said, I'm familiar with a large Buddhist organization. How do I know if a practice is right for me?
Well, I think the only person in the world who can tell you that is you. You are the world's leading authority on your body, heart, and mind. I was just listening to the Kalama Sutta, which is a teaching the Buddha gave. You'll forgive me, it's one of my favorite stories and suttas, teachings. There's a town that the Buddha goes with a large number of monks and nuns. They're kind of on like a walking tour. And they go through this town that's right smack dab in the middle of this pilgrim route. And that's something that the ancient world is full of. Places, holy places connected by roads and towns. It becomes their own little like tourist industry. And you go through, and depending on a holiday or a time. So the Buddha and his monks and nuns go to this town of the Kalamas, which is an ethnic group of people. And the Kalamas say, hey, we're on a pilgrim route, and all the time these yogis and gurus and teachers come through, and for their own views, they praise their own views and their own understanding and say how wonderful it is, and this is the way it is, and then they leave. And somebody else comes through a week later and says, that guy's a moron. He doesn't know anything. I know what's right. And so the question that the Kalama chieftain asks the Buddha is a very small question. He says, how do we know which one is lying and which one is telling the truth? And the Buddha very mercifully answers a much more important question, which is, how do you know what practice, what way of life, what way of living is good for you? And he gives a very long and beautiful answer, grounded in conduct, which I really appreciate. But the shorthand of it is, I say to you, Kalamas, do not go by reports, by tradition, by scriptural authority, by pondering views, by charisma, or by the thought, well, this person's our teacher. Rather, when you know for yourself that these views and these practices are wholesome, they are approved of by the wise, and they lead to happiness and joy, then you should enter into and abide in them. You are the only person that knows how is your heart right now, and right now, and right now. So you're the only person that can know if a practice is good for you. And especially in a large organization, even in a small organization, every single person is having their own experience. So what works for you might not work for the person next to you. And you could go to the same groups and the same teachings, etc., etc. So developing a sense for yourself of, is my heart opening? And the teachings of the Buddha are full of these kinds of rubrics of like, you know, kindness, compassion, joy at the joy of another, equanimity. Are these increasing or decreasing? Patience, fortitude, generosity. Are these increasing or decreasing? And even just, is this a practice? Is this a way of viewing the world that is wholesome and feels good in your heart? Only you can answer that. So, may it serve you. I hope that is a good answer. It's the one I got for you. That's really good. I'm going to repeat that for Zoom. Walter, my very wise friend Lane, just mentioned that also things take time. So giving yourself enough time to really enter into and drink deeply from anything, and giving yourself that grace and that time to change. Change takes time, especially important change. That's a really good, thank you, Lane, that's a really good point. And that's also, that's like so much of the suffering in my life is like holding an ice cube in my hand and getting really upset about it and having a whole little meltdown about it, and then it's melted. And I'm like, what was that all for? Like, I could have just waited and relaxed around it. Kari.
I think it's also kind of important to, or at least for me, that I find that not clinging to one teaching or one way of doing things is really important. Like getting mad at myself because I didn't like meditate for 3 days in a row. It's like, I meditate, but I do yoga and I do this, and these are all ways of getting to God.
Okay.
And so I think being so caught up is like this the way or
Oh, that's good.
It's like the teaching's gonna come in the way it does. Like I was supposed to go on a Vipassana retreat, and then someone got COVID and it got canceled.
Oh.
So clearly right now I'm not meant to do Vipassana.
At least right this second.
Exactly. And I really am okay with that. It took me a minute to get there.
Yeah.
But in this moment I realized that this is just not what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
And so other teachings and other meditations that I'm doing right now are definitely working.
Okay, Kari raised a great point. I'm going to repeat that for Zoom. And of course I'm going to give it my own spin because it's perception all the way down. But that not over-relying or clinging to the form or the teacher or the specific practice, understanding that whatever you do is your practice. And I think that's really valuable. The way a person makes tea, the way they talk to their child, the way they kiss their partner, the way they drive, the way they cook. Your whole life is your practice. So, and even like, we live in this incredible age where literally right now I could find you 14,000 cat memes in like a minute. And you also get stuff like my phone, I could go online right now and get in 91, I know a guy who in 1991 went to Sri Lanka to study, and he was like, like I would, nice and naive, like, hey, do you guys have a copy of the Sutta Pitaka, like the body of the suttas of the Buddha, the teachings? And they're like, oh yeah, totally. And it was in the corner of this warehouse on a dust-covered shelf, and it wasn't even translated into the local Sinhala language. It was in Pali, and nobody there read Pali. And he was like, what? Because he didn't know that a lot of traditions of monks and nuns just, what they know from their teacher, and then like some commentaries. And now I could go on my phone right now and pull up the whole thing with a Chinese translation and a Tibetan, and then like, scrolls that were just found in Afghanistan in a cave somewhere. I mean, we live in this incredible world, The Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh recently passed, and he wrote so prolifically. And so, there's a lot of teachers and teachings available to you. And in the end, again, quoting Ajahn Chah, the only book worth reading is the book of your heart. So making friends with and meeting your own experience and getting really intimate with it will provide you the best way to be like, how's this working for me? That was a really interesting subject. Thanks for your great question. I appreciate that. That's not something we talk about a lot in that way. I really appreciate the Buddha's kind of angle that, like, yeah, this is hard, guys, because it's literally swimming against the stream. It's cultivating this kind of way of being in the world and being with ourselves is directly antithetical to our kind of habitual way that we are. And one of the primary ways that the Buddha found that people get hung up is in the very foundational idea of I, me, mine, myself. It's a little bit silly when you think of the fact that I was rocks and dust and trees and bugs and flowers and cosmic gases for 4 trillion years, and I hop around and do this dance, and then I'll be rocks and trees and dust and flowers and bugs and cosmic gases for however long. So any kind of like clinging to myself or my picture of myself or who I think I am, it's just bound to, at the very least, get clunky and inconvenient. So the Buddha had a lot of practices around recognizing not self. This is not me. And they range from very gentle to very strong medicine. And this is kind of oriented in this way. So to begin, just take a nice, in fact, maybe even take a couple, I know we all breathe very quietly in here, but maybe even take a couple with an exhale, ah, on the mouth. Yeah. Yeah. And even like, have your, open your eyes if they're already closed and just kind of absent-mindedly look around the room. This is, interestingly, this is a vagus nerve stimulating activity where you kind of let your eyes wander around the room the way animals and children do before they get very serious. Just allow your head and neck and eyes to be relaxed and loose, and then gently. And if you want to keep them open, you'd be welcome to. I find that the visual field is really distracting for me as a very visual person, so I like to close my eyes, but also you can keep them open at the floor at a 45 or even at the horizon line. Sometimes it's very easy, interesting to do that. I meditate every day with my eyes open too. It's a different experience for me. Okay. Allowing your body to come to rest. Allowing your hands, feet, legs, arms and shoulders to come to rest in a natural and effortless way. Take a few moments to scan your awareness through the sensations of your body. And wherever needed, invite those places to soften and release any obvious areas of physical tension. Maybe taking a moment to notice the prevalence or activity of energy in the hands and feet and face. Places with a lot of nerve endings, a lot of fine motor articulation. Allowing them to come to rest, feeling them slack, letting go. And in a gentle and relaxed way, I invite you to notice the top of your head. Noticing the top of your head and allowing your attention, like water, to just flow from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet. Noticing everything in between. And you can go as slow or fast as you like. When you reach your feet, I invite you to just start again. For me, it always feels very relaxing, tracing the awareness of my body from the top of my head, down my face, neck, shoulders and arms, chest and abdomen, buttocks and thighs, knees, calves, down to my feet. And on the next time that you flow down to whatever part is touching the ground, I invite you to kind of imagine your way into letting your awareness sink into the ground, guided by gravity. Feel free to do it another couple times from the top of your head, down your whole body, and into the earth. Feeling the stability. The earth herself holds you to her with gravity. This energetic field touches everything here. Having planted yourself firmly in the ground, I invite you to notice the breath, and just notice, with no need to control or manage. The breath is flowing in and flowing out. I invite you to see if you can tap into the pleasure of the breath. Each in-breath sending oxygen hurtling through your cells. Into your bloodstream, rejuvenating the whole system. Each out-breath releasing CO2. In this way, we are interpenetrated by the earth, the vast sky, all creatures breathing the same breath. I want to invite you to following the in-breath and following the out-breath. I invite you to feel the breath in the whole body. This energy filling up, circulating this whole form of yours. If we were to try to determine when the air that belongs to the earth and all of her creatures in the vast sky becomes your breath, we would be unable to find a coherent rubric. There is nothing yours about this breath. The awareness that is the knower of the breath does not begin or end at your body, this body. This awareness of yours encompasses the entire room, every sound falling into your open ears, the building, the street outside, the trees, the sky. The thoughts and feelings that arise within your internal space, the citta, the heart-mind, they are simply arising and passing away. Natural phenomena. Like rain, like wind, like sun. And I invite you to notice if there isn't some, in the same way that we calm our body and come to rest, invite you to notice if there isn't some rest and peace that comes with calming the ideas of ownership, of sensation. This body is made of sun and moon, food and love, time and space. Is an expression of the primordial forces of the cosmos. Arising due to causes and conditions and ceasing due to causes and conditions. Utterly at home in the coming and going. And finally, I invite you to just rest, and I'll be quiet. Just take a moment together.
I've been invited to try again. Can we
Yes,
hear me?
sir. I can hear you loud and clear.
So I have a less silly offering. I was reflecting on the very wholesome, I felt, comments made earlier about finding a practice, finding a path that we sense is wholesome, beneficial. As a kind of sidebar, I'll also offer that it's sometimes okay, sometimes part of the practice, in my experience, that we don't know. And sometimes we even, in the Christian tradition, they speak of the dark night of the soul, where the sense of joy or benefit just kind of goes away. But if we're in a path, if we're allowing ourselves to be held by a growth process, sometimes the work, the growth, as it were, goes underground. It's still going on, and we may not have immediate contact with it. So that's just an additional little offering that sometimes not knowing quite what's happening is a part of it. I'll offer again, by and large, and I've been practicing a long time, lots of study, but it seems to me being really simple stuff that helps us have a kind of soft-hearted, honest engagement with being alive. That's for me the touchstone.
I'm Dave. I'm glad you tried again. Thanks for, Dave breezes in and just drops these bombs. This is what he does. I love it. Thank you very, very much. And that idea of the dark night is expressed in different ways, in different traditions. It's, I've had a few times where I was like, is it supposed to feel like this? But that's between you and your therapist and your support network. But it's common to, in any kind of practice that begins to meet what's actually in there. Spoiler alert, there's lots of things that we maybe didn't want to look at in there. But this place, the cushion, is where you go to meet everything in your precious heart. So it's really my prayer that the entire raft of techniques, meditative techniques, conduct, guidelines for practice for lay people and monastics, excuse me, I really feel like are perfectly explained and exemplified in the practice of loving kindness and compassion, this Metta Karuna that we do at the end of every Monday night. At the end of that, I was talking to you about the Kalama Sutta, where the question was, how do we know which one of these yehus has it right and who has it wrong? And the Buddha gave a more kind of expansive kind of way of looking at teachers and ways, even just ways of looking at the world, not even spiritual teachers, just the way people relate to the world. And my relationship to the world around me defines so much. I mean, it's never the thing, it's our relationship to it, right? So looking at the way people relate to the world and asking yourself, is that the world I want to live in? Is that how I want to be? But then at the very end of that Kalama Sutta, the Buddha does an interesting thing. He kind of zags. And then he says, that disciple of the noble ones pervades the cosmos with loving kindness and compassion, free of ill will and enmity. They dwell pervading the cosmos with loving kindness and compassion. It's such a beautiful orientation. Like, I'm not actually smart enough to know what I should do in every single situation. I'm not smart enough to know who's my friend and who's my enemy half the time. So imagine if you just cut right at the root of the tree of duality and say, actually, every single being that lives, I am their well-wisher. May they be happy. May they be free from suffering. And where there is suffering, my heart quivers with them, and I am available. It's such a powerful, again, way of looking, perception, such a powerful way of looking at the universe. And it instantly does this jujitsu, makes the entire universe your friend. With the usual caveats of, some people you bow to from a distance, or behind an email, or behind a blocked on Instagram. May they be happy. That's my favorite. May they be happy. But still, at least in my own heart, I don't want to have any enemies. The world is too small. My heart is too small. I don't have room for that. And as always, that I hide in my shirt for some enemy will always end up being used on me. You can't decide. It doesn't work that way. I don't want to have any enemies. So, I offer that to you by way of your whole practice can be loving kindness and compassion. Every word, every thought, every breath, every deed can be an expression of that. And maybe it begins with yourself. So, as the Buddha said, I cannot find anyone more deserving of my loving kindness and compassion than myself. It begins at home. So right now, exactly as you are, this infinitely precious, utterly ungraspable patterning of energy arising in the cosmos as the cosmos, you. I invite you to hold yourself in loving kindness and compassion, whatever that means to you, however you get there. Maybe putting your hand upon your heart feeling the contact, feeling the warmth, maybe thinking of yourself as a child, or thinking of your highest values, yourself as an expression of that. If you have a connection to some deity form or some historical figure that is an exemplar of loving kindness and compassion, if you've ever been on the receiving end of someone's kindness, a mentor, a friend, a loved one, just exactly like this. This loving kindness and compassion, free of caveat, condition, criticism. With each breath, an act of love. I invite you to recite or repeat these simple phrases after me. May I be happy and safe from harm. May I be happy and safe from harm. May I be healthy in body and in mind. May I be healthy in body and in mind. May I be peaceful and free of suffering. May I be peaceful and free of suffering. I invite you into the understanding that all beings are just like this, desiring to be happy, tasting joy and suffering, carrying their heart in their hands, heirs to their thoughts, words, and deeds, and born to live and die. From this platform of radical solidarity with all beings, I invite you to extend this attitude of loving kindness and compassion to them. May all beings be happy and safe from harm. May all beings be happy and safe from harm. May all beings be healthy in body and in mind. May all beings be healthy in body and in mind. May all beings be peaceful and free of suffering. May all beings be peaceful and free of suffering. The Buddha taught his students thus: let one who is skilled in the way of goodness and who desires to walk their days in peace think like this. In gladness and in safety may all beings be happy at heart. Whatever beings there may be, great or small, near or far, seen or unseen, born or yet to be born, may all beings everywhere be happy. As a mother cherishes and protects her only child, so should one cherish and protect this attitude of a boundless heart full of loving kindness for all beings. It is the sublime abiding here and now. For my simple part, today and every day of my life, my prayer for you, may you be happy, may you be safe and healthy, may you live in peace and ease. May you be that refuge that you seek for those around you, for yourself, for all beings. May you swiftly awaken to your nature and birthright, the unbound heart and the mind of awakening, for the benefit and happiness of all beings everywhere. On behalf of myself and my teachers in Long Beach Meditation, please accept my most humble and sincere bow. This Monday night class is complete. May it be of service to you. May it be of benefit and happiness to all beings. May all beings be happy. Okay, guys. Now, go out there and be awesome.